you having me. You've had a pretty incredible list of guests already, and it's exciting to be a part of it.
Thank you again. Yeah. How's the day been so far? I mean, obviously with the snowfall that we got going on here.
Man, Tuesdays is kind of my work from home day now,
Yeah.
so it has affected me in zero way today, but I'm sure tomorrow I'll start feeling it a little bit.
You'll start feeling it. Do you end up working out at home as well then, or do modules or create certain things for yourself?
Most of it right now, like I have a podcast of my own, so like I do a lot of my recording on Tuesdays, and then just like programming and things like that for clients. Like I have Tuesday as kind of my day to get all the stuff done that's out of the gym.
Yeah.
And then I can concentrate on actually being in the gym and coaching on the other days as well, without that stuff sort of hanging over my head. So
No, for sure. You actually have an amazing, an extensive list of things that you've done and what you continue to do. Did you always know you'd be someone that is so involved in the fitness community, or was it over time?
man, it's one of those things with me, like right from day one, it's always where I wanted to be. But then like when I was younger, I sort of let the people around me almost convince me that, that's not where people make careers. And so, I started kind of off on a different path and then realized very, very quickly into it, man, I hate this. What am I doing? Like, and I realized I'd rather take a shot at doing what I actually wanted to do and ending up where I actually want to be than just sort of start off on a path that I already knew I didn't really want to be a part of.
Yeah. Has it, now how many, 15 years? No, 12 years, right?
Yeah. A little over 12 years. I think we're pushing close to 13 now.
My gosh. Was it difficult during the pandemic to get clients or keep them even? Because, no one was going to the gyms. Everything was closed. It must have been so difficult for you guys.
Honestly, like it definitely was. Like it threw a whole new challenge in our direction. But I think the biggest thing, like it hit me right away that as soon as the world shut down in March 2020, it hit me right away that, wow, like my business right now is, if I'm not in the gym, I'm screwed. And like, obviously a global pandemic's a little different than most cases, but I looked at it even in the way of like, if I was to get super sick or any, whatever else might happen, if I can't be there right now, I cannot make money. So it got me sort of really rethinking the whole model of my coaching business. And like, it got me doing a lot more online. All my athletes now are up on an online training app. So even when they are in with me, they've got their training session up on their phone with all the coaching cues and everything right in front of them. So that if I am ever out of town, now they can continue to train anyway. And then it was actually through the pandemic that I started doing the research and then got to the point of opening my own facility. So in the beginning, it was very difficult, but it was definitely, I definitely took the route of, well, we are where we are. So, what am I going to do with it?
Exactly. And there's a silver lining in all of this, isn't there?
Yeah, man, absolutely. Like I think 40% of my income comes from online stuff now, which before March 2020, it was zero. So, there's a lot of ups and downs, but this is something that'll change my business moving forward for the rest of the time.
Have you got clients that you haven't even met yet?
Yeah, a couple.
Wow. Okay, that's pretty cool. That's fantastic.
Yeah, we've met over Zoom a couple times, but that's it.
Do you still remember your first client and how hard it was to get one of your first clients? Well, I guess, and even in this new pivot, how hard it was to get that first one?
Yeah, so I've been at a few, like when I started this, I was actually in high school and I was just coaching younger students at my high school through powerlifting, which was the sport I was competing in at the time. And so getting them wasn't super difficult because there were just a couple of kids that were interested in learning. But when I got into the actual first job where it was like my responsibility to start building up clients, that one I remember really being the most difficult. Yeah. And I think like the real thing for me with that job was it was a lot of learning on how not to pitch, hey, this is what I do and this is what we can work on together, but more so getting them to understand, here's how coming in and training is going to help you, like the benefits it's going to have them, like whether for an athlete, how it's going to make you faster and more competitive in your sport, or for a general population, just like how it's going to actually improve your life to be in there versus just, hey, look at me and all my skills, right?
Yeah, no, for sure. And I guess through the pandemic, have your customers or clients seen the results they want, or is it hard for them to be accountable because we're at home often?
It's definitely much more difficult.
Yeah.
Just because again, you don't actually have that appointment set with somebody to like, I'm going to go in and see Kenny at 4:00 on Wednesdays and Fridays, right? Like it is a little more on you. But so I have had some people that have fallen off a little bit and kind of been up and down and inconsistent. But even with those, like the thing I try to preach is like, obviously, yeah, it's on you. The more you're working at it while we're at home, the better. But also we're facing something the world's never faced before. Like if you're not perfect with your training routine, like give yourself a little bit of a break, like understand we're going to need the odd mental health day now, probably more than ever. But, keep to it. And if you ever need anything, I'm always there. I'm always hopefully free to get in contact and, help you wherever I can. But it's definitely difficult. It's got its challenges.
When you were starting this, well, you got a new facility going on, you've got a podcast. Was there a moment where your mental health deteriorated and you said, holy smokes, will I even make it?
There have definitely been a few, like, holy smokes, what am I doing here kind of moments. But I think it really it all ties back to something I talk about to athletes all the time. It's passion, right? Like when you enjoy it, there's never, like, I've never had a thought of trying to do something else, right? Like there are definitely days where I'm curious. It's like, man, am I a little in over my head, or like, what am I doing here? But I've never had a thought of doing something else. Like it's always just been, I've had a few of those moments, but then I'm able to kind of take a deep breath, bring myself back and go, okay, I know where I'm at. Like think of what's not going so well and then take the next step to actually trying to fix it or actually trying to improve it, right?
It's almost like the universe aligns itself with who you truly are. And I think, what you're called for in this world, which is what you're saying. It's in your DNA. It's what you love, Hard times will bring the best times down the line.
Yeah, man, absolutely. And I remember even when I was a kid, I remember having a conversation with my dad. I think I was 17 or 18. And, he had been talking to me about maybe this is something you do as a hobby on the side of whatever job you end up with. And I realized that like, this is, if I was getting paid to do something else, like if I was at, some 9-to-5 desk job, this is what I'd want to do in my spare time. But, by working the way you do and by just the passion drives you through. And now I can do what I would want to do in my spare time for a living.
For sure.
Right. So it's like, that makes it so much more fun to be able to wake up every day and do exactly what you'd want to be doing. Right.
100%. But the key is discipline.
Yes.
And that there are days where we can wander and but realigning yourself and saying, oh, I got to get this done, even though you don't want to get it done. Sometimes, facing it and it's exhausting and your friends are all doing other things while and you've been there through the journey. Yeah.
For sure. And I mean, I think the discipline thing, like, yeah, that's like the way I kind of look at it for myself. And I've definitely gone through ups and downs with it a lot. But the big thing for me is it's always on those days where I wake up and want to get absolutely nothing done, I make myself get one thing done. So I can go to bed tonight with just that, okay, I'm a step further than I was yesterday. Yeah. And those days don't come around a lot, but it's like whenever I have that day, it's like at least take one step. A lot of days it's a lot more than one, but if those days come where you feel like doing nothing, just get one thing done, take one step forward, right?
Exactly. And it's, it's funny that you brought up the mental health days that people should be taking. I feel like growing up, we didn't take those days. And it was something that was kind of frowned upon to say, what, a mental health day? Come on, get back to work, right? You're being lazy. That's an excuse.
Yeah. And I mean, I think it's something that people need to watch for too, right? Because it's like, I think it is crucially important, and it's tough sort of talking on this because, everybody's going to be a little different.
100%.
Like I know the way I work, like I love working every day. Like even those days where I wake up and at the start of the day, I don't really feel like doing anything, usually by like 1 or 2 p.m. Like I'm ready and I'm
All the
ready to go
neurons are
again.
firing. Yeah.
Exactly. It's like, but there are people that don't work that way, right? Like they
Mhm.
need that full day off a week or full 2 days off a week. And I think the biggest thing over time that I've tried to come to for myself, but for the people I work with too, is it's just finding balance. Like finding the balance of how much you can do to be the most productive and then how much is too much. And then it's like, if you need that day every week, take that day every week, but do as much as you can in those other 6. If you need 2 days every week, do that. But also understand, if you've got a goal set for yourself, understand the work that needs to go into that goal and progress towards it in the best way that you can, right?
Where's your facility?
We're right up the road from Chinook Mall.
Yeah.
So if you leave the mall up 61st Ave, right across McLeod Trail,
Okay. Yep.
right at the top of that hill, it's the Phillips Park Business Park, and we're right in there.
I think there was a hot tub place around there, wasn't there?
I believe so. Yeah, I think
World of Spas, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's right across the bay from us,
Okay.
actually. So yeah, we're right in that same block, but I think I think we're in the B block, and I think they might be in the D block if I
D
remember
block. Okay.
correctly.
Awesome. Now, what is your facility called? It's on your sweater, isn't it?
So we run it a little differently than a lot of gyms.
Okay.
Like a lot of places, they have the facility, and then everybody works under that same banner.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas what we've done is myself and my partner Kyle Donsberger, we both have our own separate coaching businesses. And so we came together with our coaching businesses, put all the money into the equipment, into the rent and everything like that, and opened the facility. So we have 3 companies right now working out of one gym. So if you searched up the gym name, you're not really going to find anything. But for myself, my company is Coach Dusseault Conditioning. And then the 2 others out of the same building are Impulse Athletics and Ultim Athletics.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What made you start a podcast?
Man, I mean, for one, and anybody who knows me, if this might make them laugh a little bit, I love to talk. Like I love just like hearing what other people have to say about things that I'm interested in too. So it was a pretty good fit that way. I get roasted a lot for never shutting up. So, but the big one was when I was an athlete, when I was younger, I realized that I had a competitive drive, but I had no real idea how to foster it. Like I knew I wanted to be successful at something,
Mm-hmm.
but I had people telling me like, oh, just play for fun and enjoy yourself. And there's nothing wrong with that. But I always kind of knew I wanted more, but didn't really know how to go about achieving it. And so as a power lifter, like I was always, I always felt like I knew as much as I needed to know so I could kind of coach myself. And I was always kind of trying to throw more weight on in the gym because it looked impressive and all of that. And at the time, I felt like I was doing the right things. But looking back on it now, I realized how terribly I approached training and everything myself. And I realized there's a huge gap in the world of elite performance sport that athletes see, the little clips and everything on social media, and they think, I'm going to practice and then one day I'm going to be as good as Connor McDavid or as good as,
Mm-hmm.
some of these other superstars. And so what I wanted to do with my show is talk to people that have been involved as players, as coaches, strength and conditioning coaches like myself around the world, and get into the background, the approach day to day, what separates these guys and girls at the top from those who don't make it. And to hopefully give athletes insights into, yes, it's important to practice your skills. Yes, it's important to, lift weights, do sprints, all of those things. But, what else is there? Everybody knows that. What else is there that you can start doing now that's going to carry you up and above the pack?
How much of it is heart, spirit, and mind?
Man, actually, one of my favorite quotes from the show, it was episode 52 with Theo Fleury.
Mm-hmm.
And he said 95% of playing at the top level is in your mind. Because he said everyone there is skilled. You're not going to run into a player in the NHL that does not have an incredible skill set. So the ones who succeed are the ones who have it mentally. And that's just going to be being able to deal with adversity, being able to push yourself when you feel like you've got nothing left, just all those things that everybody doesn't
Mm-hmm.
want to do. If you can do that, you're going to be the one that raises above the pack.
What scares people oftentimes is you were so close and they let go. Um, I wonder what that is. Is it denial? Is it, I guess it's that self dialogue that we have, and we often say to ourselves, you're not good enough. And maybe that's the breaking point. Is that what you see from the people from a world class level in athleticism versus someone that was just about there?
Yeah, honestly, quite often I really see it come down to self-belief, right? Like it's one thing to
Hmm.
be confident, like it's one thing to have an ego. A lot of athletes have egos,
Yeah.
but it's a whole other thing to not have an ego, but just have self-confidence. Understand that, you're willing to go to places that other people aren't willing to go to. And,
Now, what does that
one
mean? Self confidence and ego? Because, oftentimes people can blur that.
That's true. I think the biggest difference for me, and I'll try to articulate it properly, but sometimes I stumble over my words. With the ego, I think it's more almost being afraid of looking bad. Like, even if you're a top level athlete, being afraid of putting yourself in a situation where you might not succeed. Right. So, if you're one of the examples would be in one of the other episodes, I
Mhm.
talked to a UFC fighter, and he talked about how for him, whatever happens in the gym never matters to him as long as it's in preparation for the actual fight. Right. So he has no problem going to local grappling tournaments and having somebody submit him in a grappling tournament because he knows that he's going to learn something from that and he's going to take it to the fight where it actually matters. So he's confident in preparing in whatever way he needs to prepare to be best when it matters most. Whereas I think the guys with the ego wouldn't want to put themselves in that situation where they might lose in training because it looks bad and then that's going to feel bad, even though they could learn something from that and take that into competition,
Mm,
if that makes sense.
no, 100%. Yeah. I think the ego is a killer for so many individuals, isn't it?
Absolutely, man. It was something I struggled a lot with
Yeah.
in my earlier days, even coaching. Like I almost wanted to separate myself from anybody and everybody because I was afraid that, I was afraid of being found out of not knowing everything. And then after a while I realized it's just stupid to think that you know everything because you don't. Nobody does.
No.
And if you're surrounding yourself with people who know more than you, you're going to learn, you're going to get better, and in turn everybody you work with is going to benefit.
And every day we're learning, every day we make mistakes. I think that's what it is about being a human being. It's as long as you can embrace, learn, and grow from it. And I think that's a great thing. It's really cool though. Through the pandemic, I started the podcast. You started your podcast. You started this business. There's so many people, and it fascinates me that ended up complaining more than doing something about it, or pointing the finger instead of looking at themselves and saying, "Holy smokes, there's a silver lining here that I could work on myself."
Yeah.
Yes, I might not be able to go to the club or the bar every night or at this moment in time, but I can do stuff within myself. And if I find me, probably going to be a better me for others and obviously for myself.
Man, 100%. And I mean, really and truly, you can't go to the club or the bar every night. If anything, that's probably a good thing, right? Like, and yeah, I fully agree. I think it was really a defining factor for a lot of people, some in a negative way, some in a positive way.
Hmm.
And obviously, I don't want to speak to anybody and everybody because there are some
Of
situations that
course.
are different that,
Yeah.
they may not have had control, but
Hmm.
I think a lot of people did look at it almost as a convenient excuse not to keep pushing towards something, right? It's like,
Hmm.
I don't have to keep trying hard because the world shut down. So it's not my fault that I didn't achieve it, right? Whereas a lot of other people went the other way where it's, okay, the world shut down. So I can't go down the path that I normally would have, but what am I going to do now? Where am I going to go with this?
Yeah, and let's be creative. Let's find solutions. And um, I think for a lot of people, the creative element actually turned back on. Oftentimes we get stuck in our mundane tasks or jobs where we end up putting ideas aside or not being forced to go look at those ideas. And I think for yourself, you said, shoot, I'm in this position, the gyms are closed, what am I going to do? You had to get creative. You had to start looking and researching, seeing I guess in your sector, in your field, who are the individuals that are succeeding, and how can you become a part of it, right?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. In the beginning, I'll be totally honest, it was fear of losing clients. Like I didn't know how long we were going to be shut down. And I knew that if we came back in 3 months and I hadn't talked to any clients or, hadn't been continuing to try to work with them, well, what business do they have
Mhm.
coming back to me? So I was trying to put something together just to sort of hold on to whoever I could. But then over time, I realized that, this is this has real potential. Like I can make this into a part of my business, not only to obviously help myself and, the revenue that I can create from it, but to create a larger impact. Like I've gotten some unbelievable feedback on my show over the last 18 months about how I had one athlete tell me that he was ready to give up his hockey career, but then he was listening to one of the episodes of my show and realized that, getting drafted into the NHL at 18 is not the only path. And he wanted to continue to pursue hockey and play as long as he possibly could. And, just little things like that I realized that, man, the pandemic's been able to help me make an impact in a whole other kind of way. And it's got me so excited for new ideas and things in the future, even
For
too.
sure. I mean, locally, or let's just say Canada wide, is there a gap here that you can fill, or a bridge that you're building here for people? And what exactly is that?
So the bridge in the terms of
In terms of somebody that wants to become better, what are you bridging for them? Like, what is the connection you're building for that person? I mean, you're more than a personal trainer, you're deeper than that. So, what
yeah,
is that?
I think the real thing for me is it's guidance. Like a lot of the time people in our industry, it's purely about the physical, right? It's
Yeah.
the exercise, the sets, the reps, and then coaches are getting a little better at pulling that back to the actual sport. So, we're going to do these exercises today. This is how it's going to help you as a hockey player or in whatever other sport you might be in. But I think what I'm really trying to bring that's a next level from that is the guidance of what it takes to be an athlete every day. If you're a kid like I was when I was
Hmm.
starting to compete in powerlifting, where you want to be successful at something, you think you can do really well at it. I want to be that guide that stops you from making those mistakes, stops you from letting your ego take over, lets you understand that, even if you're doing well in those local levels, like I was doing really well, breaking some provincial and national records for the under 19 categories, which is great. But I really think if I had had people sort of keeping me in line, keeping me smarter about how I was training, I could have gone on to do well on a world stage as well and really done something with that. But it was my own stupidity getting in the way, being too worried about how good I looked in the gym and all of that, that got me to injuring myself, not doing well, and then having to kind of restart from step one. So what I really want to bring to athletes now is, to put it really bluntly, help them avoid making the same mistakes that I did.
Right.
Fostering the competitive spirit and actually putting those into proper habits that are going to create success long term.
No, for sure. For the listeners, what is powerlifting exactly?
So powerlifting, the competitions are essentially a squat, a bench press, and a deadlift. And it's broken down into weight classes. And so you get 3 attempts at every lift. And basically, when the day is done in your weight class, whoever has the highest total between the 3 lifts wins.
So, what were you benching at one
My
point in time?
my best bench was 310 pounds.
Oh my goodness!
Um,
Holy!
yeah. And then a couple of injuries, and I definitely can't do that right now. But like the strength and all that's coming back. One day, I'll be an old man that was stronger than I was when I was in my 20s. But
Did you ever tear something? Because I've seen someone when they rip their muscle, it actually shoots back.
yeah, I've never done that. Thankfully, I avoided that one. But me, it was just a lot of real problems in the shoulders from, again, training way too heavy, way too often. Because
Hmm.
again, it was that ego kicking in, right? Of I wanted to have 200, 300 pounds on the bar as often as I could. And I wasn't taking into account that, your body's not necessarily just built to take that. And you have to take better care of your body and not just try to push it to its limits every day.
Yeah. Now, if someone wants to do things online and say they can't make it to your gym, or they live in a different city, is there things that individuals can do at home without all the equipment
Oh man, absolutely. I've had clients online that like they have as little as a pair of 5 pound dumbbells in their house. And obviously, take into account that if you've only got a pair of 5 pound dumbbells and you're not going outside or doing anything there, you're only going to get results so quickly. But my real belief is that something is always better than nothing. So, if
100%.
you've got any equipment whatsoever, even if you don't have equipment, getting onto a program of some sort where you're doing something every day or doing something a few times a week, that's going to have more benefit than not doing anything.
Yeah.
But then obviously the more you're able to do, the more equipment and more space you've got access to, the better. But man, you got to start somewhere, right? If you're doing nothing, you gotta start at
Exactly.
least at the bottom.
People say you should work out at least 20 to 30 minutes a day. And but what are the downsides if you don't work out 20 to 30 minutes a day? What are some of the things you found from people that say, "Hey, I haven't worked out in 3 years, 4 years."
Oh man, how much time you got?
No, but they're like, "I'm healthy, I'm good to go." Like, they're feeling good. They're saying, "I don't know, what am I missing out on? To look jacked up, to look buff, fit? I'm good."
Well, I mean, that is true. If you're not working out 20 to 30 minutes a day, you can live a relatively okay life for some time. It's like, but little simple things that you'll start to notice are getting up those 3 flights of stairs to get into your condo is a little bit harder than it used to be. You got, your knees and your elbows and your shoulders ache a little more than they used to. Your rec hockey games that you're playing on the weekends, well, you don't feel as good the day after when you're 40 as you did when you were 30. Like just those little things of like your body starts to deteriorate over time. So you might not notice that, massive difference from month to month, week to week, whatever, but you're going to start to notice. And like people attribute it to just getting older. It's like, but if you're on a proper training program, you're lifting weights a couple of times a week, you're doing some cardio, you're getting some real physical activity designed around building the body, well, then you won't notice those same aging factors at the same rate as people who aren't doing those things.
When people want to get big or jacked up, as they say, it's better to lift heavy, isn't it? And not do as much cardio, I've heard.
It's definitely not a bad thing to do cardio in those cases. Like, cause again, it's just health of the body. Like even when I was powerlifting, that was one of the big mistakes I made was it was all about the heavy lifting all the time. And I got pretty big and strong. I was up to 227 pounds at one point, and I'm 5'10".
Gosh, wow.
And but the problem was my body felt like it was held together by Scotch tape. Like if one wrong move and I was blowing out a shoulder or popping out a knee or something like that. Like I kind of felt that way all the time. It's like, but adding the cardio in is going to just help your body recover. So if you're training a few times a week and lifting heavy, if you've got a better aerobic base, your body's going to be able to recover better between your sessions, and you'll be able to do more within your training, and you're going to be able to feel a little better through all of that as well.
No, for sure.
So it's making sure you have a balance.
100%. And I know we got to end here soon because you got to get going back to work. So I had a question in regards to diet. How important is it? How also important for men is testosterone, to take testosterone pills? Is that important, or something to pump up your testosterone, zinc and iron?
I mean, so the diet is definitely crucial. Like we've got to keep the body feeling like it's essentially the fuel in the car, right? It's like if you're not taking good care of what you're eating, it's like trying to function on an empty gas tank. And so it's absolutely crucial to be watching what you're eating and trying to make sure you're eating healthy. But I think then the big thing, as far as the testosterone and all of that, I wouldn't really be able to speak too well to that, just because if you're keeping physically active, hopefully you shouldn't have any issues there. I wouldn't recommend anything like taking anything to boost that unless you have a real reason to. But that I'd talk more to doctors about, more so than myself. Yeah.
No, that's awesome. And if someone wanted to get a hold of you, how can they do so, Kenny?
So one of the best ways is through email, Kenny@coachdusseault.com. I can send you the info.
For sure, and I'll edit it in.
And then Instagram is the other place that I'm always quite active. So that the handle there is at Coach Dusseault, and we connected through there. So I'm sure you got the info for that as well.
And I love the videos, by the way, that you post. It's so engaging because it makes you want to be a part of the process. You're like, damn, am I missing out?
Well, I love hearing that because yeah, that's, you know, Instagram and marketing and all that kind of stuff is definitely not my forte. It's something I picked up along the way
Yeah.
while running a business. So it's always great getting some good feedback on that. I appreciate
That's
it.
awesome. Well, let's keep in touch, Kenny, and I'll definitely put your message out there and keep doing what you're doing. This is fantastic, and hopefully I can come down one of these days when I'm in the area. I'll let you know.
Yeah, man, absolutely. I appreciate you having me on. It's been a lot of fun chatting, and yeah, I appreciate you taking the time for it.
For sure, man. We'll chat soon, eh?
Absolutely.
All right. See you, Kenny.